Hello students, welcome to Survey of Chemistry Part 1. Today we are going to cover the introductory chapter, Chapter 1. You might be thinking like, what is a chemistry and what do we study in a chemistry? So let me explain you. Chemistry is a branch of science that deals with the study of matter. Matter is actually anything that has the mass, means it has some amount, and then it occupies some space, some volume. So anything that is a matter, and we study about it, like what is the appearance, what is the composition, what properties does it have, and can we transform from one matter to another. So everything about matter is covered in a discipline of science, we call it chemistry. Okay, so matter can be simple things like chalk I'm writing, or the water that you are drinking, or it could be synthetic like the computer that we are using right now. Okay, so let us look on the different states of matter. Matter can exist in solid state or liquid state, or it can exist in gas state. What is the fundamental difference between these states? Let's understand this by the picture shown here. The picture is the molecular view of the particles. Okay. So in the solid state, we will see these particles will lie very close to each other. There will be no freedom of motion. That's why the solid particles or the solid state will always maintain its shape and it has a definite volume. In the case of liquid state, you will see there will be some space, some room between the particles. They can move past one another. So there is some freedom of motion in them. They are loosely packed, right? So that's why they can take the shape of the container because you can pour the liquid. They have some room to pass around, to move around, right? And the liquid states also have a definite volume just like solid. Okay, that's why 1 liter of milk, either it is in carton gallon or 1 liter of milk in plastic bag, both of them are 1 liter. They have a definite volume. Okay. On the other hand, the gaseous state does not have a definite volume. It will just expand and cover the volume and the shape of the container, right? It takes the shape of container. Why? Because in gaseous state, the particles are far apart from each other. They can move around randomly and they can occupy all the volume of the container that it has. So basically, the fundamental difference between the different states of matter is the distance between these interparticle, right? We call it interparticle distance. Now we understood what are the different states of matter. Now let us look on the different properties that is characterized. Okay, so all the matter are characterized by the physical and chemical properties. What do we call of physical properties? If without changing the composition of material, we can observe the changes, like in their appearance or the states, then we call it physical properties. Okay, generally in physical properties means when these properties are acted upon, there is not a change in the composition, okay, the chemical composition of the matter. The physical change or the physical properties will only alter the material's appearance. It does not alter the material's composition. Okay, for example, when you melt ice, you are making the solid water into liquid water. right? It is a physical change because water in solid form or liquid form has one oxygen and two hydrogen. You are not altering its composition. The composition of water is always H, right? We have two hydrogen bound with one oxygen, right? So the composition is not altered. It is just the appearance is altered. The appearance changes. So we call it physical change. Like liquid water, now you can convert that into gaseous, right? Steam or the vapor of water by boiling it. So the properties like boiling point, the melting point, the solubility, we call them physical properties. If there is change in color, the change in the different phases of matter, it is all the physical changes, and these are the physical properties. Okay, so if you do the action like cutting down a long rope into small pieces, that is just a physical change, right? If you break down the mirror into small pieces, right, we have a physical change. Now, if we change the composition of the substance and we make an entirely new substance, then we are undergoing or we are doing some kind of chemical change. Okay, so all the chemical reaction we will be learning later on are the chemical changes. When something reacts with something, when you burn the paper and make it a black carbon, when you ferment the sugar and make it beer, all these process changes the composition of substance. So we call them chemical changes. And chemical properties are determined like how a substance can be converted into another substance. Okay, that water we were talking, if we do some kind of electrolysis, okay, and we break down water, here is the water molecule. If we break down the water molecule into hydrogen, okay, and oxygen, we are doing, let me touch that, we are doing a chemical change here because it is a chemical reaction. Okay, we can break down water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen by doing electrolysis process. So now let's look on how can we classify the matter. Okay, we just looked, the matter has different properties. They can have physical and chemical properties. How can we classify them? We can classify a matter into two different groups: pure substance and a mixture. Okay, so these are the two broad categories. And pure substance, we can classify them further down into element over here and the compounds. So pure substance means they will always composed of a single component. If the single component is the atom, then we are talking about element. Okay, if the single component is a molecule, then we are talking about compound. Okay, so you see the water that has the formula H2O, right? This is a compound because it has hydrogen and oxygen, two different elements. If we talk about the oxygen gas, okay, the oxygen is an element because the oxygen has only oxygen atoms in them. Okay, regardless, either they are element or compound, the pure substances, they will have always constant composition. It means either you get the water from the rainwater, or you get water from the lab, or you get water from the glaciers, all of them will have the composition of 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen. Okay, and we cannot break down the pure substances like element and compounds by doing any kind of physical change. Okay, just by smashing water, we cannot break down into hydrogen and oxygen. So, further, we just talk about element is a pure substance. We cannot break down the different component or it has a single component. It is made of atoms. We cannot break down an element into atoms just by the physical and by chemical chains. Okay, but a compound, we can break down the compound into the simpler atoms by chemical chains, or chemically a compound can be broken down into 2 pure substances. Okay, so we saw that pure substances can be element or compound. Element cannot be converted into atoms. It cannot be converted into atoms by physical and chemical method. Compound, since it is formed by elements, now we can further break down compound into elements using the chemical method. One example is the water. We can break down water into hydrogen and oxygen only by chemical method, and we call that method electrolysis. By physical method, we cannot convert them into atoms. Okay, so we can summarize all these later on. So on the classification of matter, we talk about the pure substances, right? Now the second one is the mixture. Mixture are composed of more than one component. That's why we can separate the mixture. We can separate all these components by just doing the physical change or physical process. It is like if you have some Cheerios, some strawberries, and some chocolate in a bowl for your breakfast, you can separate the Cheerios using the spoon, right? You can separate the chocolate. Mixtures can be separated into the component just by the physical method. Mixtures can have different composition, means you can make a sugar solution. A cup of sugar solution could be more sweeter than another cup of sugar solution. So they do have different composition in them, right? So if you have a mixture of water and sugar, right, one of the cup of sugar solution will have a different composition than the other. Summarizing all these classification of matter, let us look here in this flow chart. You can ask yourself whether the matter can be separated by physical process or not. If you can separate the matter by physical process, like cutting down or picking up the physical extraction, right, using the spoon or tweezer, then it is a mixture. Or you can do the filtration process, right? Some other process you will work in the lab. Those are, so we can have a mixture in there. If we cannot separate the matter by physical process, then it is a pure substance. Pure substance could be element or a compound. How to differentiate them? For compounds, you can break them down into simpler substance. For element, you cannot break it down. Right? So this is the step that you can differentiate to tell whether a particular matter is a pure substance or it is a mixture. If it is a pure substance, then whether it is an element or a compound. Okay? If you are clear with this, let's try this question. Is salad a mixture or pure substance? I will give you a couple of seconds to think. Salad can have some lettuce, some tomatoes, some other greens, right? You can use the spoon to separate a tomato from the salad. So salad is a mixture. Sugar is simply the molecule of sugar. It has a single component, so we call sugar a pure substance. Concrete, when somebody is building doing construction using the concrete, they mix the water with cement and some other stuff into it. So concrete is a mixture. There might be a variable composition in the concrete. Right? A lead weight has all the metal lead in it. It is an element. So actually you will see later on the periodic table, it will have 118 elements in them. All these are the elements. The helium in the balloon. The helium is also an element. Wood. Wood is a mixture. Okay? Because when you look at the wood, you may have a varying composition there. Some area could be more solid wood, some area could be less porous, some area could be more porous. So we do have a different variation of composition there, right? We might have some moisture there, the cellulose, all that. So wood is a mixture. So here I wrap up the introductory part about the matter, the classification of matter. We talk about that matter has a properties. That properties could be physical or chemical. Now we learn if we alter just the appearance, just the look, but not the composition, what it is made out of, then we are talking about physical change. If we completely switch or completely make a new substance, then we change the composition by reacting or by fermenting, by burning something, then that is known as chemical change. Right? Finally, we discuss how to recognize the different matter. Either it is a pure substance or it is a mixture. If it is pure substance, then if it has single type of atom in it, then we call it element. If we have the combination of elements to form a pure substance like water, we call it compound. Right? So I think you are clear on that. So we will continue in the next video.